welcome back to what I'm calling Season 3 of Fantasy Football here at ONTV. We just completed our draft last night, so I have my usual cohort, Joe Johnson, with me to go over our draft grades, how things went, how we're feeling, and just get a good vibe of how the season's going to start in just a couple weeks. Joe, how do you feel your draft went?
I personally am happy with my draft. The website didn't seem to agree. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but it was nice getting the first one out of the way, getting that feel for a traditional snake draft and taking what I'd learned from that draft and applying it to my future drafts. But I was excited. I went with youth, and I think you did something similar to a lesser extent. I think I banked more heavily on youth than you did, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a fun season.
Yeah, I'm excited about my team as well. It's not too often that I get, spoiler alert, the first pick overall. I tend to be somebody that always seems to be in the middle of drafts a lot, which is kind of boring overall. So this year I decided to try something different, a little unorthodox, and I like how it turned out. And the nice thing, like you said, is this is a good warm-up league. Because we're in the exact same leagues. We're in 3 different leagues, and each one is kind of a step up in at least payout and things. So this is like a good warm-up to feel things out and see how things are going. But I'm happy with the way that it turned out. So what we're going to do, we're going to go into Yahoo's draft grades and go over some of the teams and talk about it. As we know, and I think we've said it in the past, Yahoo's draft grades are very all over the place. So it's just something you have to keep an eye on. Take it with a grain of salt is all I'll say. So me having the first pick overall, unusual. I haven't really seen it on Yahoo too often. A+. They said that I took the crown and I leave rivals in the dust. And how did I do that? I got Jamar Chase first overall. He's kind of the unanimous guy this year.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what were your thoughts heading into it? I mean, obviously you didn't know you had the first pick until just moments before the draft, but was there a period where you're thinking, okay, if I get the first pick, this is who I'm getting? Or did you solidify that just before the draft?
No, I was always under the impression that I would go Jamar Chase. I think I like to prioritize running back a little bit more this year, but I think Chase is just far and away the best wide receiver. I think all the other wide receivers this year have some sort of question mark to where if I was in the back half of the draft, that's probably where I'd go. But my top 5, there's probably 2 wide receivers and 3 running backs in my top 5. But I didn't ever think of going something else.
So, I mean, taking him first in the draft, you don't think he's just the best wide receiver. You think he's the best player at that point.
Yeah, I just think he's far and away the best player. I don't think anything changed with Cincinnati in general. I think their defense is going to be awful.
Forcing them to put up points.
Yeah, and they're just an offensive juggernaut. They have a good running back. They have 2 good wide receivers. Their tight ends are all right. And Joe Burrow's in that top 5 conversation of quarterbacks in the league. And we already saw it. They decided to play in the preseason this year. And on some of the first couple plays, Joe Burrow threw a touchdown to Jamar Chase very quickly. So, I think the first choice overall was pretty easy.
See, I'm old school. I kind of went into it knowing that my first 2 picks in the draft were going to be running backs. So had I had the first pick of the draft, I would have went running back. Knowing that wide receivers were going to be in demand up near the top, I was fairly confident that the running backs that I had kind of targeted, I knew I was going to get at least one to fall into my lap because I knew it wasn't going to be, I had the 5th pick in the draft, and I knew it wasn't going to be all running backs. I knew some wide receivers were going to go. So I was happy that I was going to be content with whatever running back fell into my lap when it was my turn to pick.
Yeah. And I I don't think there's really a wrong draft pick this year. I felt like the first round was pretty solid. Whether you're just preface, we're in an 8-team league, so it's a lot different than most normal leagues.
Yeah.
When you get to 10, 12, the first round's a lot bigger. You know, you have less strength of your team overall, but I still feel like even in a 12-team league that the first round is very strong this year. There's not too many like misses per se. So the one thing that I strayed away from this year was I tried something completely different that I've never tried. And I did that last year, didn't really work out. I tried that 0 running back strategy last year, hated it. In a way, I did it this year, but with some caveats. But my plan this year was if I was on the turn, whether the first pick or the 8th pick, my plan was to take both the top tight ends because in Yahoo they're ranked. They were ranked like in the 30s. So most likely, if I was on one of those picks, I could have been on the turn to take somebody. Now, it wasn't guaranteed if I was 8th pick if I could do this. But first pick, I pretty much was guaranteed that this would happen. So when it came back to me, I decided to take Brock Bowers and then take Trey McBride. I think in an 8-team league, it's different because those top players in a position are so much more valuable. And that's why I even take quarterback early in this kind of league. As you can see, I took Jaden Daniels as my 4th pick. But taking Bowers and McBride, my goal is that none of the other tight ends are going to be anywhere close to what these guys are. And I want to basically have the monopoly of the position.
The beauty of the tight end position is you're not forced to just start one.
Mm-hmm.
You can start either one of them in a flex position.
Right.
So not only are you have the two top tight ends in the league, you're kind of crippling the rest of the league by taking those 2 top guys. So it's a very interesting strategy.
And based off their stats last year, if they can repeat, one of them will be just as good, maybe a little bit less than most people's second wide receiver. And that's kind of the goal, is that one of them will slot into one of those flex positions that we have. The other one will just be an elite tight end. And then if the other one can match somebody else's like wide receiver 2, then I would say it's kind of an even playing field. And then I just have that advantage at tight end every week.
Yeah.
So that's my hope. We'll see how it plays out.
If I remember correctly, I don't think I got a tight end till maybe my 6th or 7th pick of the draft. And at that point, the difference between tight ends is negligible. I mean, all the top tight ends were off the board at that point. So I'd rather stack up my running backs and wide receivers. And at that point, who I got for tight end wasn't going to make that much of an impact.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. That's exactly what I would have done if I wasn't on the turn, because this was my other thought process, is that I know we've done this league now. This is the 3rd year, like we said. I know that when somebody takes that first positional player, that everybody else starts to get nervous. So as soon as I took those 2 tight ends, Marie 2 picks later took George Kittle. And then I think Becky took a tight end within the next 2 rounds. Tracy took a tight end within the next 2 rounds or something. So people get nervous about it. So I knew that if I tried from like the 2nd spot or maybe the middle of the draft, if I took Brock Bowers first, I was pretty sure Trey McBride would not come back to me. So that's why I needed to be on the turn. And that's how it worked out.
Now, the downside of that is that you're not getting your first running back for 3 rounds, basically.
Yeah.
Any regrets?
Not really. So my only like slight disappointment was in the 4th round. I didn't fully want to take quarterback because it's hard to take 2 tight ends and then a quarterback.
Yeah.
So I'm relying on my late draft knowledge, which I was pretty confident in, but it makes me more nervous. In the draft, Malik was auto drafting and he got A.J. Brown. If I would have had A.J. Brown instead of Jaden Daniels, I would have felt a lot better about the draft in general. But yeah, I didn't get my first running backs until 5th and 6th. Now, these are the top 2 rookie running backs outside of Ashton Genty, and both of them have looked really good so far in the preseason. Now, you can only take so much into the preseason, but I'm pretty confident they'll be good at some point. And I think that's why later in the draft, I supplemented it with guys that have been around. Isaiah Pacheco for Kansas City. I think he's going to bounce back a little bit this year. And then Joe Mixon, who's right now he's on the mend, but if he gets healthy, I think he'll be fine as well. So I took kind of 2 more veteran guys along with the rookies to hopefully solidify my running back room. But it is a little bit nervy to start like that.
Now, obviously, after the draft, Yahoo sort of just populates your starting lineup based on points projected, but they've put in your 2 rookie running backs into your starting lineup.
Yeah.
Are you looking at that? Like, do you leave that, or do you bring in one of your veterans?
Yeah, I'm debating, and that's the hard thing about drafting so early is that we don't know as much. So, like Travion Henderson, he's still splitting time or expected to split time with Ramondre Stevenson, at least at the beginning of the season. But that could change fairly quickly, especially because Stevenson's had fumbling issues in the past. Henderson is supposed to be a really good pass blocker and things, so he might be more utility as well. But he's a way better pass catcher. So there might be a lot of advantages that he can slowly move into the starting lineup full time. So that one I'll have to watch, because if he's maybe splitting too much time, I may go with Pacheco to start the season. But I think Hampton, he's going to be one of my starting guys, because Najee Harris has an eye injury. There hasn't been any updates about it. He's looking like he's going to miss at least the first week, and who knows. And then Hampton he's in a great offense. The Chargers love to run the ball, and I think he's going to fit in good. But it's still nerve-wracking, to say the least.
I mean, Pacheco, I kind of steered clear of him only because of the injury problems that I had last season. I had him last season, and he was doing okay for me until he was done for the season. And so anytime the next season starts and you get a player coming off a season-ending injury, there's some risk involved. So he could be one of the better steals of the draft, but he's also a risk. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. The other thing, like I said, I was kind of trying something different. I went with Teteroa McMillan, another rookie, but he's my favorite rookie in the NFL this year, wide receiver for Carolina. I think he's going to be the number 1 guy for Carolina, but for him to be my second wide receiver is spooky. So that's why I took Calvin Ridley, kind of the only guy in Tennessee, the veteran there. I think he should be good. Rashee Rice in the 9th round, he can get me off to a good start. So if Teteroa McMillan is struggling as a rookie, Rashee Rice can fill in, because he's going to at least play in the first 4 games, and then after that he could be suspended for who knows how long.
Yeah.
But Rice could also be a steal if his suspension's not as long as some people think. I like Chris Olave for New Orleans. He's really talented. They have a lot of quarterback issues. Ricky Pearsall is supposed to be stepping up this year for San Francisco.
Right. Yeah, I've heard good things about him.
Because Ayuk's going to be out for a while still. They don't know when he's going to return. Jawan Jennings, he's been banged up a little bit in the preseason, so Pearsall might be the first guy up for them, and I think that's a strong spot. And then I think the guy that a lot of people need to know about is Emeka Egbuka of Tampa Bay. He is probably going to be their wide receiver 2 right to start the season, because Godwin is still coming off of injury. They just put Jalen McMillan, who was their kind of breakout wide receiver last year as a rookie. He just went on the PUP list, so he's going to be out for the first 4 games of the season. So Egbuka might be opposite Mike Evans to start the season, and in that offense, we know they can score very quickly and fast. So I think that's where I went. A lot of risk early, but I went with, I think, guys that are good values late to hopefully even out that squad.
The fantasy TikTok videos that I see on my feed, Egbuka's name comes up often as a sleeper pick, maybe a league winner, that sort of thing. So had you not gotten him, I probably would have gotten him that following round.
Right. So they did say that my best pick was Isaiah Pacheco, and my worst pick was Teteroa McMillan. But I took him early because I didn't want to try to wait and miss him, because he was the one guy that I really wanted.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to Ian's team. Past champion, defending champion, Ian Witherspoon. He got a B+ on his grade. He was 8th, the 8th draft pick. So he
after picking first last season and winning the league, he fell to 8th this year
Yeah.
and got those back-to-back picks. But that doesn't seem like in our league a bad spot to be in.
Right. And I think it's really interesting. The top 2 grades, at least, were the back-to-back picks. So let's see. Ian, in the first round, took Amon-Ra St. Brown. To me, that was a courtesy thing because I thought, you know what? Ian won it last year with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I could do the same thing. If I'm the first overall, I could go with Amon-Ra St. Brown. But I thought, you know what? I'm not going to have that kind of luck on my side. It just doesn't work that way. So I figured Ian might be able to get Amon-Ra at 8, which is pretty wild. And then he went with Justin Jefferson. This is the second year in a row that we've seen Justin Jefferson go at the end of the first round, which is scary. But he also went quarterback early. He went in the 3rd round with Lamar Jackson. He took the first quarterback off the board. Do you think that was a good move for him?
Yeah, I mean, Jackson's right up there with Allen and Burrow, and you're investing heavily in these top quarterbacks, and you're giving up wide receivers or running backs to try and snag that quarterback. But he's definitely going to, when the season's over, he's probably going to be a top 3 quarterback. So not a bad pick. My strategy going in was to hold off on quarterbacks, which I'm fine with. But if you're going to pick a quarterback early, Jackson, Allen, Burrow, those are the ones you want to snag.
Right. Then he followed that up with Josh Jacobs and James Cook as his 2 running backs. Would you feel confident having those 2 guys as your top 2 running backs?
No.
Okay.
I'm not a Packers fan.
Yeah.
Cook, he's consistent, I guess, but he's not a name that you really hear thrown out often as being a game changer, throughout the season. So, I don't know. I have a feeling Ian went for those guys because a lot of the top backs were off the board at this point because he went wide receiver, quarterback.
Right.
So now the pool's getting a little thin. So that might be an area he's going to have to shore up with waiver wires or trades.
Yeah, I think James Cook could be really good. The big concern for me is that last year he found the end zone more than he had ever had. So if he could repeat that touchdown mark, then I think he'll be okay. But his career doesn't say that that's going to happen again. That was more of an outlier. So that made me a little nervous about James Cook. In the 6th round, he went with one of my favorite guys, Mike Evans, just Mr. Consistent, always 1,000 yards, always right there for double-digit touchdowns.
But he's got to be one of the oldest wide receivers in the league.
Yeah, he's up there.
And that makes me nervous, too. He's had his injuries, and that allowed Godwin to step up and kind of get his chances. But then he got that serious injury last year. And last year, both Evans and Godwin were off the field for a good chunk of the season, which kind of crippled the Tampa Bay team. So, to me, Evans was a risk. There could be reward there, but I was going to steer clear of Evans.
Yeah. To get him as your 3rd wide receiver, I don't think is that bad. And then he gets Terry McLaurin, who right now is technically not signed, so Washington doesn't have him. Or he's signed, but he wants a new contract. It's a whole mess. There's an outside possibility of a trade as well, but I think in the 8th round, that's a good pick no matter what. I skipped over his seventh round pick of Aaron Jones. Not a big fan of that pick. I don't like Aaron Jones. I think Minnesota's backfield might be a little bit messy now that they signed Jordan Mason in the offseason. They might be splitting work. Jordan Mason might be the touchdown guy. Aaron Jones might just be the 1st and 2nd down guy. It's just risky, but again, I know he had to fill out some running back depth, so that's what he was trying to do.
Jones isn't necessarily known as a touchdown producer. I kind of followed him last season, and he didn't get into the end zone a whole lot during this season. So, yeah.
And then we're seeing the fruits of my labor. Ian's first tight end was Kyle Pitts. And I've had a rough relationship with Kyle Pitts in the past. I believed in him a couple years. His rookie year, he did fine. And then I kept drafting him, and it got worse every year. I do think he has a potential bounce back, but it's just one of those guys I can't touch him. So Kyle Pitts, it's okay, but I think this is where I like how my draft strategy worked out. Then he rounds out his team with DJ Moore, who I think is a solid wide receiver. Jaden Blue, rookie for Dallas. I think he's a little banged up right now, but he could come into that starting lineup for Dallas, which would be a pretty pivotal role. We know the starting running back for Dallas can be pretty valuable, like we've seen Ezekiel Elliott in the past, but nobody's really stepped up in the last couple of years. He also got Zach Charbonnet as a running back. Kenneth Walker
He's
is
an exciting running back.
Yeah, and Kenneth Walker is one to get hurt pretty often, so I think, that's a good thing. So I think Charbonnet is a good pick there. And then your guy,
Boy.
Look at how this has happened over the years. Round 14.
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp.
Well, Ian said just before picking Kupp that he thinks this might be a bounce back year for him.
Mm-hmm.
No one will be cheering harder if that does happen. I'd love to see Kupp bounce back, but
Yeah.
I just wouldn't want to risk it just yet. But he's pretty deep on his roster.
Yeah.
So if Kupp does have that bounce back season, then I applaud Ian for snagging him and working him into the starting lineup at some point.
Yeah, I think he's a good value late to just, take a chance on. We saw last year for the first half of the season, he was like classic Cooper Kupp. He was scoring, getting tons of targets, tons of looks. And then the second half of the season, he just kind of went away. He got a little bit banged up here and there. So new regime, he gets to go to Seattle, start kind of fresh, even though he's my age. But, you never know. With Sam Darnold had an okay year last year, so they might be throwing the ball a decent amount, and maybe, like I said, could be a good value.
It'd be fun to watch.
Right. Any final thoughts on Ian's team? Or
obviously,
do you agree with the B+? Let's go with that.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely do. And, obviously his strength are his wide receivers. I mean, he won the entire league last year with St. Brown as the first pick overall.
Mm-hmm.
To couple that with Jefferson. Now, obviously, there's, going to be that question mark at quarterback. We're going to have to see how things shake out in Minnesota with their new young quarterback, which we'll get to in a little bit. But those are his strengths, the wide receivers. I think he's solid at quarterback. We'll just have to see how the running game shakes out.
Yeah. We'll quickly go over his best draft pick, according to Yahoo, was Terry McLaurin, and his worst draft pick was Kyle Pitts. No surprise.
Yeah.
He's also projected to go 10-4 on the season. So, moving on to Malik's team, we'll go kind of quickly because he was auto-drafted, but funny enough, he got the third overall grade, B+, and he did get a couple players that he actually wanted. I was trying to draft a couple of picks for him, but it never really worked out. Didn't let me use the commissioner tools like I thought it would.
Have you shared his lineup with him yet?
No, I meant to, and then I forgot.
I was just curious what his reaction
I think he's
would be.
coming home today, or he came home last night. I can't remember. He's projected to go 9-5 on the season. But his first overall pick, he got the second pick right behind me. He got Bijan Robinson, which I think is great.
Oh, yeah.
I think Jamar Chase and then Bijan Robinson are the top two clear-cut guys, in my opinion.
Definitely. And had I had the first pick of the draft, I would have gone with Robinson.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah, I was going to say, if you feel like you want to go running back like you typically do, Bijan first overall is nothing to bat an eye at.
The interesting thing is when you are auto drafting, because he was on vacation, those first few picks are going to be solid.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the obvious choices. Auto drafting only gets a little iffier in the later rounds when you try to get a little creative. But no, auto drafting and getting Bijan as your starting running back, I envy that.
Yeah. And then I think his next few picks, I know they're all wide receivers, but getting Nico Collins, a Michigan man, that was a guy that was on his list. I think that was cool. And then Brian Thomas Jr., who was my breakout last year, that really helped me in a lot of leagues. I got him for cheap last year in our auction league. And then I drafted him in basically every one of my leagues. And then getting A.J. Brown in the fourth just felt like such good value. That's why I was saying if he didn't take it auto-drafted, I was going to snap A.J. Brown in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah. So consistent, so solid.
Yeah, so those three wide receivers I think were really good. Garrett Wilson, I'm just not a believer in the Jets right now.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
So that's a little unfortunate in that aspect. Chuba Hubbard, I think he should be pretty good for Carolina again. Last year, I think he surprised a lot of people with how well he played. And then Patrick Mahomes.
We could dedicate an entire
He's-
podcast to talking about
Something
Mahomes.
about Patrick Mahomes in the ONTV league, it always comes up. So we'll see how Malik manages it this year. Maybe Malik doesn't even play him.
Right. He has Stroud on his bench. So,
Yeah.
The thing with Mahomes, he's a great NFL quarterback. Somehow the Chiefs always pull wins out of their crevices, but it doesn't translate to fantasy numbers.
Yeah.
And that's what's so frustrating. And, I think it was 2 seasons ago, I went off my normal strategy and said, all right, I'm going to take the top QB in the game. And I drafted Mahomes. And every week I struggled with whether or not to bench him. It was that disappointing. So who knows what Malik's going to get with him this season. But I chalk him up as a great NFL quarterback, a lousy fantasy quarterback.
Yeah. No, I agree. David Njoku as his starting tight end, I think is solid. Joe Flacco was announced the starter for Cleveland. So last time they played together, Njoku was a really good tight end. Then he got some more wide receivers, Jalen Waddle and George Pickens. I think one of those guys could replace Garrett Wilson in the starting lineup eventually. DeAndre Swift, I think he's just kind of a safe running back that he got. It did auto draft Brock Purdy, but as you said, after the draft, because of his list, CJ Stroud was available, so I just dropped Brock Purdy and put in CJ Stroud into his lineup.
Yeah, if he's still available, that's fine.
Yeah, so Brock Purdy is now on our waivers, which is good. Another guy that Malik wanted, Tucker Kraft, Green Bay tight end. So I think his tight ends are both pretty solid guys that could maybe break out. He got rookie Caleb Johnson from Pittsburgh as another running back that a lot of people like. So yeah, I think his team is good overall. His apparent best pick was George Pickens, and they said his worst draft pick was actually David Njoku.
Oh, really?
So I feel like if David Njoku is your worst pick, that's not too bad.
It's the same old story. It seems like, after last season, Malik, got fairly deep into the playoffs despite not paying a whole lot of attention to his roster. Here, he starts out the season by auto drafting and gets a far better grade than I got. A guy who actually studies and goes in knowing who I want, and he outgraded me.
Yeah. All right. So B+ for him, and then we have the halftime honeybees, Becky, who did a lot of research going up into the draft, coming out with a C+ grade. That reminds me of my college days, doing lots of studying, but only getting a C+.
I could relate to that.
But yeah, Becky had a lot of talks before the draft with some friends to get some ideas, and she's expected to go 9-5 and tied for third place in the league. Her best draft pick was apparently Davante Adams, and her worst draft pick, Sam Laporta. That's unfortunate, but that's a homer pick. So
I'm surprised that Adams would score higher than Barkley. I mean, she, when Barkley fell to her, it was like a no-brainer. Like, you have to take Barkley. I would say that was her best pick of the draft, but arguably she also has the general consensus for the best quarterback in the NFL and Allen. So
right.
I would rank those two over Adams.
Yeah, I think it just goes based off of values, and Davante Adams was pretty highly ranked. I think I could look at it actually. He was ranked as 44th, or no, 42nd, and she drafted him at 61.
Wow.
So they're just saying that the value was basically there.
I see.
But she started her draft off, like you said, with Saquon Barkley, the number one player last year, at least running back. I can't remember if he beat out Chase or not. The only thing that concerns me about Barkley, and I don't know if I would have passed on him at 4 either, but there was a stat that I've been seeing a lot of people put out that every time that a running back has had 400 plus touches in a season, the next season they have not been a top 12 running back.
Interesting.
Something to that degree. So we'll see if he can break that. The other thing that's going against Saquon Barkley, and this is because I'm a video game nerd as well as a football sicko. Saquon Barkley is your Madden 26 cover athlete.
The Madden jinx, the Madden curse.
So the Madden curse has not been good to any player. And so that's the only thing that kind of makes me nervous. But seeing him in the Philadelphia offense, everything just clicked for him last year. So
yeah, I mean, he was so much better than everybody else last year. It's actually kind of shocking to see him drop to, was it fourth?
Yeah.
He easily could have gone number one in a lot of drafts. So I think she got him for a steal.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I've noticed, at least in my years of playing fantasy too, is that usually like the number one overall guy from the previous year does not repeat too often.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to do. So I don't know. But yeah, he could do exactly what he did last year, and she has basically the steal of the draft.
Yeah.
She followed that up with Malik Neighbors, the New York Giants wide receiver. I know you typically don't like New York. Do you think Malik Neighbors was okay? Or
I don't necessarily have a problem with New York, but when I did look at their quarterbacks this season, I'm like, oh no,
it's Russell Wilson.
Yeah, and Russell
Possibly
Wilson
a
is
rookie.
all over the place, and Dart is he second or third on the
he's
depth
second.
chart? So that's my biggest concern is their quarterback situation. So obviously that's going to affect their wide receivers. But I've had giant wide receivers on my roster many times, so I don't necessarily have anything against them. But I did see a video where they expressed some concern about Neighbors' health, I think, but he had a fairly solid season last year, didn't he? So but he went down hurt late in the season, didn't he?
He had a couple injuries here and there.
So that was the biggest concern is his injury. If is he going to be able to stay healthy? But I do like him as a wide receiver.
Right. Then she went with Chase Brown in the third round. I really like that pick. I think Chase Brown, again, Cincinnati's offense is just kind of a juggernaut. They're going to be on the field a lot. He also catches a lot of passes. They finally, Zach Moss, I believe, retired or they released him. I can't remember. So they have Samaje Perine, who played for the Bengals a couple years ago as a backup. They also have a rookie in Taj Brooks. So those guys are more like utility backs. So I think Chase Brown's just going to take over the backfield.
Yeah.
Then, like you said, Josh Allen, my number one quarterback. I would have taken him again if nobody else wanted to start the quarterback run. She went with Sam Laporta. She wanted a Lion in her lineup, so I can't blame her for that. And then Tyreek Hill, I know he was awful last year.
He was.
But getting him in the sixth round, I think Tyreek Hill could bounce back. The biggest problem is he's got to stay healthy and Tua's got to stay healthy. And Tua has really struggled. But again, taking him there at the sixth round, I don't think there's a big risk there. I think he could really prove to be something. I think my biggest question mark is right here in round 7, taking another tight end. Yes, I did take back-to-back tight ends, but taking 2 mediocre tight ends within 3 rounds, I think is just a little bit too risky, at least for me personally.
It's so shocking to hear you describe Andrews as mediocre. I mean,
I know
he was the top in the game just a few seasons ago.
And he's one of my favorite players. I love Baltimore, so he's one of my guys. I had him in all my leagues last year, and he was kind of a disappointment. And, of course, last year when I gave up on him is when he actually closed out the season pretty good. So it was kind of a slap in my face. But, I just think it's tough. Sam Laporta, as good as he is, we know that Detroit's offense likes to spread the ball around, so it's hard to predict who's going to score week in and week out. He doesn't get a ton of looks, even though he's really talented. And same with Mark Andrews. Like, Baltimore has Derrick Henry. They have Lamar Jackson. They don't have to throw the ball all that much. So Andrews becomes really touchdown dependent, which always just makes me a little nervous. But then, like I said, she got Devontae Adams in the 8th round. I think that's solid value as well. So her wide receivers could be pretty good, but she doesn't have a ton of wide receiver depth. Her only wide receiver after those 3 is Jerry Jeudy, who I also think is a good value now that Joe Flacco is the starter. But I didn't realize she took another tight end in round 15.
Oh, so that's right.
So she's got 3 tight ends.
Yeah.
So maybe that's an okay thing that eventually she can feel it out and then eventually drop one of them and pick somebody else up for depth. But,
And that's what those, week 1, week 2 is to allow you to kind of shake things down, see how things play out, and see which tight end steps up. But yeah, I don't think I would have gone 3 tight ends, and you're an exception with your tight ends, but I don't think I would start 2 tight ends
right
after the 2 you drafted.
Yeah.
The 2 you drafted are like starting 2 wide receivers. But
right.
I don't want to give Becky advice, but I would pick one or the other and fill that flex position with somebody else.
Yeah, definitely. All right, moving on to Sammy. After a disappointing season, he says he is on his revenge tour. It starts off with a C- draft grade. So improvement, maybe. He drafts like a pro in a parallel universe. That's what the summary says. He's projected to have a 7-7 season, so that would be an improvement from next year or from last year. His best draft pick was James Conner, and his worst draft pick was also on the same team, Kyler Murray. So that's kind of interesting. To the results, my big gripe with Sammy last year, and he did a little better this year, but last year he had like 4 running backs within maybe the first 5 rounds. And so when he got to his wide receivers, he had, I think, 2 wide receivers. And when you get to those middle round running backs, in my opinion, the wide receivers just tend to do better or have higher ceilings. And so week in and week out, he would do okay, but he just never had those like blow up weeks, it felt like. And I think that was part of his problem. So this year he went with Christian McCaffrey, who I think is great. I'm going to go against the grain. I think McCaffrey's going to have a bounce back year because it seems like every time people buy into McCaffrey, that's when he gets hurt. When people are out and that they're scared of his injuries, that's when he does good. So he's on one of those years where everybody's a little nervous about him. I think he's going to do fine.
He was on the table when it was my turn to draft, and I just didn't want to risk it, and I hope it doesn't blow up in my face.
I was going to say, if I was Becky at 4, I know she can't take McCaffrey because she had him last year and he got injured, so I understand.
Yeah.
But that's where I would consider taking McCaffrey, is at 4. That's how high I am on him this year.
A few years ago, definitely. But
yeah.
I don't know. The injuries are just so risky, and it's up to the team owner to decide whether he's worth that risk.
Yeah. I think the best thing that he did, though, was he followed that up with Derrick Henry, one of the most solid running backs that we've seen in ages. Yes, he's 32 or whatever, but he's like LeBron, where you're just going to keep drafting him until he shows that he's fallen off. And he hasn't shown it yet.
Yeah, and, it's funny looking at his roster here. If you take both those players, McCaffrey and Henry, and they're both healthy and they both have productive seasons, that is a heck of a 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
I mean, if they both stay healthy, Sammy can be looking pretty good.
Yeah. And then I'll say Achane, unfortunately, he just got a minor injury recently, so people are nervous about that. If he didn't and Tua stayed healthy, I know it stinks that the Dolphins rely so much on Tua's health.
Right.
But when Achane and Tua were in the lineup together, I think Achane was like the number 1 running back for multiple weeks. So potentially Sammy would have 3 like top running backs.
Yeah.
If all things go his way. So I can't blame him too much for taking 3 running backs. And at least this year, he followed it up with 2 wide receivers. He got Ladd McConkey for the Chargers and then Marvin Harrison Jr. From the Cardinals. I'm still nervous about Harrison Jr. Just because
he dropped off a cliff.
Yeah, and he ended up getting some touchdowns to be okay, but people were so high on him being one of the top prospects ever. It was just a lot of pressure, I think, and hopefully this being his second year, he'll bounce back.
What round did he draft McConkey in?
4.
So that was one of the few players in this year's draft that I felt was stolen from me because when it got to pick 8 and Ian did his back-to-back picks and it started coming my way, I was like, McConkey's still on the board. And so I was going to pick him with my next pick. And when I heard that name come out of Sammy's mouth, I was like, I
Yeah.
really, really wanted McConkey this season.
Yeah. And then he paired up Marvin Harrison Jr. with Kyler Murray. So he's got a little stack there, which I think, we always enjoy. So hopefully if they make a turnaround, that could be pretty good for him. He went with Travis Kelce as his starting tight end. Kelce supposedly is in a lot better shape this year. He's kind of turned things around after losing the Super Bowl. So he might actually be motivated. Maybe Kansas City can turn it around. I don't think that's a bad risk to take. And then Sammy's third Arizona Cardinal, James Conner in the 8th round. He's kind of just a solid running back to round out his running backs.
Nothing wrong with that pick.
Yeah. And again, I like that after that, Sammy has 4 running backs, but he never took another running back. So he then had Cortland Sutton, who's a solid wide receiver. So he went with a little bit of risk in his running backs with a lot of upside, and he went with some safer wide receivers, in my opinion. So I think he rounded out his roster a lot better than he did last year. He also kind of got a backup. He got a backup quarterback with Justin Herbert, who I think could fill in nicely if Kyler Murray is struggling.
Oh, solid backup.
Colston Loveland, a lot of people love him as a rookie tight end. I just think Chicago, they have too many offensive weapons. I don't know where they're going to go with that. He went with Xavier Worthy in the 12th round, who's an exciting player last year. Can have some big blow-up weeks, so another exciting young wide receiver for him. He took a couple defenses, which I don't agree with, but
yeah, there's going to be defenses on the waiver wire.
Yeah.
Like draft one defense to fill out your starting lineup, but why waste a roster spot on a backup defense this early?
Yeah. I always say if you're going to roster 2 defenses, let it be later in the season when we get close to playoffs and you're trying to prepare for those playoff weeks.
I had a lot of success the last couple seasons with streaming defenses, just looking at matchups, see who's available on the waiver wire, and I would pick up a defense off the waiver wire, and they'd score me 20-plus points.
Yeah.
That's to me, that's the way to go.
Right. And then he picked up Matthew Golden, rookie wide receiver for Green Bay, who might be their number 1 guy. Jaden Reed has had some injuries so far in the preseason, so Matthew Golden might be that guy. So, again, I think Sammy did a lot better of making his team balanced, even though he kind of went with the same strategy as last year. He's just more balanced overall. So, hopefully, he can have a better season overall. All right. Moving on to Marie's team. She got a C+. She drafted 3rd overall, and she's projected to go 5-9. So that's interesting. I just noticed she was given a C+ grade, but 5-9. So her schedule must be harder, quote unquote, because you don't play everybody twice because we're only 8 teams.
Right.
So she might be playing the top teams twice, and that's why. Okay. So her best draft pick was DK Metcalf, according to Yahoo.
She loves Metcalf.
And her worst draft pick is Dak Prescott, who is also her favorite player for some odd reason. So those are her 2, she drafts them almost every year.
I don't get Prescott.
I don't either.
I don't understand.
I don't know where
the
it came
appeal.
from.
I'm so tired of his cadence when he's at the line of scrimmage. And I don't know. Dallas is one of those teams where I have a tough time drafting anyone from that team, even though I think I do have one player this year. But Prescott, I'll never understand that. I'm okay with Hurts as her starting QB. I mean, that tush push is going to stay, and he's going to be guaranteed at least 1 or 2 rushing touchdowns a game. So,
yeah, I agree. She went with Jahmyr Gibbs in the 1st round, getting him 3rd overall. She wanted a Detroit player. Jahmyr Gibbs was there. That's I did that last year, but I took Jahmyr Gibbs in the 2nd round.
Yeah.
Drake London all the way up to the 2nd round at pick 14. And then she went with George Kittle after I took my back-to-back tight ends. So starting running back, wide receiver, tight end, then going back to wide receiver with Jackson Smith and Jigba. And then, like you said, Jalen Hurts in the 5th round as a quarterback. Then she got Alvin Kamara, who I think, he keeps getting older, but he also just has been pretty consistent for the most part. So I don't think it's too bad there. He's going to catch a bunch of passes. Breece Hall is the biggest question mark right now. There's a lot of talk.
How I feel about Breece Hall.
There's a lot of talk about Breece Hall possibly being traded right now because of the way things are going. At least if not, he might be in a committee backfield, which is always terrifying.
correct me if I'm wrong, but last season I believe he was my number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, because
And
I took Bijan right in front of you.
yeah, and I'm like, I don't. Having Brees fall into my lap isn't such a bad thing. It was a bad thing.
Yeah, it was bad. And then DK Metcalf, like we mentioned, he's going to play for Pittsburgh this year, which is going to be a new look.
Oh.
Your favorite quarterback throwing to him, Aaron Rodgers. The only plus side there is that Aaron Rodgers tends to lean on one guy specifically.
Oh, sure. We saw it with Adams.
Yeah, so DK Metcalf might be peppered with targets. She took the first defense. She said she was going to go a little rogue this year. I told her not to go too crazy. So she did take the first defense off the board with the Eagles. I don't agree with it, but
where were they ranked as far as defense?
I'm not even sure. I usually don't look at the defensive rankings, to be
honest. I was going to say, I would never go early on a defense, but if it's the number 1 most coveted defense, then maybe. But I don't recall Philadelphia being ranked that highly.
I mean, usually they have an easy schedule in the NFC East, so it's not the worst thing in the world, but oh well. She took Roma Dunze in the 11th round after Dak Prescott. A lot of people think he might make the year 2 jump for Chicago because a lot of people are high on Chicago. I'm still not, but he could turn into something. Then she took her kicker, Cameron Dicker. Stephon Diggs, I think, is a great value this year. Coming all the way into the 13th round, he's kind of like Cooper Kupp. Not going to hurt you if he doesn't work out, but if he comes back to somewhat of his normal form, like, it's a steal.
Last season, I think he was my last pick of the draft, and people were down on him. And he was my biggest pleasant surprise last season until he got hurt late in the season. But if he's healthy, it can be some value there.
And everybody's been saying, at least out of camp, that his health has looked good. Like, it doesn't look like it's hindering him. Obviously, we'll see when it comes to actual game time, but right now, he's looking good.
Yeah.
She then got a backup tight end in Pat Freiermuth. I think he's okay, but taking a top tight end, I don't know if I would have taken a backup tight end. Again, my situation totally different, taking the top 2 guys, but if I went anything lower than that, I don't think I would have taken 2 tight ends in the draft even. Then she goes with J.K. Dobbins, who I think is solid. We'll mention R.J. Harvey in a little bit. He's also the other running back for Denver. He might be their receiving back. So they might have a split time, but they both might be very valuable to have because Dobbins might be the touchdown guy. Harvey could be the catch guy. It's kind of a wait and see.
Denver has a sort of a reputation for producing solid running backs.
Yeah.
So, that's not a bad pick at all.
And then Deebo Samuel, we know how I feel about Deebo Samuel. He's just a guy I can't draft. I don't know. He's just a risk for me.
So
but,
he's with Washington now. So do you think his quarterback situation has improved over Brock Purdy?
I think it's about the same. I think there's less competition though for him in Washington. San Francisco had a lot of pass catchers that were kind of breaking out, and they weren't using him as much in the run game like they had in the past. But since they got Christian McCaffrey, he wasn't doing that as often. Early on in the preseason so far with Washington, they've had him in some running back sets, so
interesting.
He might get his usage back, and especially now with the Terry McLaurin stuff, there's a chance he could be the wide receiver 1 on this team. So to get him in the last round, I don't hate it. I might have thought about it as like my last pick, but anything earlier than that, I'd stay away. So I think her team is pretty solid for having a fun team. I think her wide receivers are a little bit lacking, but she's got top guys, at least one guy at each position. So
and she has a couple of my favorite players. I love Kittle. He's just a fun player. And, of course, Gibbs.
Yeah.
Gibbs is probably going to be her workhorse.
Right.
And then, Hurts is going to be good for multiple touchdowns a game. So she's going to be competitive.
Right. Then we move on to Tracy's team. Funny enough, she was in the championship game last year, also notorious for that F grade. Was that in her first year? She got an F grade and then went on that winning streak to start the season.
Yeah.
So now she's kind of at the bottom. She drafted 7th overall, got herself a D. She's projected to go 4-10. Her best draft pick being Zay Flowers, her worst being Evan Ingram, which I kind of disagree with. I know it's a rankings thing, but when you have 8 teams, it's a little bit different. So anyway, her first overall pick was CeeDee Lamb, followed that up with Puka Nacua, and then Jonathan Taylor being her starting running back. And then she went to Joe Burrow as her first quarterback. How do you feel about those first rounds?
Well, it's interesting. Again, watching videos on TikTok, you see these pundits saying, if I have the fourth pick, if I have the fifth pick, if I have the sixth pick, every single one of them was like CeeDee Lamb, CeeDee Lamb, CeeDee Lamb. But then I would see guys go, players to avoid this season, CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
So he's I don't know, your first pick of the draft, I guess, if he's there. I wouldn't have gone that direction. Obviously, I'd let him slide. But I don't know. But I do love Puka. We'll see. Again, his success is going to ride with the success of Stafford. If Stafford is injury prone, who knows what kind of season Nacua is going to have.
Yeah.
But I do love the guy. David Montgomery, he was very, very consistent, But Burrow, that was her guy last year. And like you said, with a bad defense, he's forced to put up points.
Yeah.
And toward the end of the season, those last few weeks of the season last year, he put up points like crazy because he was so desperate to try to get into the playoffs. And they did miss the playoffs, didn't they, last year?
Yep.
But it wasn't his fault.
Right.
It was that defense's fault. But Burrow is, that's her guy, and he produces. So I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. But again, Dallas is one of those teams where I don't draft a lot of players from there.
Yeah. I'm kind of the opposite, at least with CeeDee Lamb. I love him this year, actually. I'll tip my cap a little bit. I'm going to look at him in the auction league. Don't know if it's going to happen. I still have like my pricing of where I would stop bidding, but he's pretty high up on my list where I think he might be a little underrated. Puka Nacua, though, he's like the Grinch for me. I'm sticking a 10-foot pole away. I'm really nervous about Stafford right now. He just came back to practice after having a back injury. He's had back problems in the past. He's getting older.
Yeah.
He's taken a lot of hits too.
I will go on record and say that Stafford's not going to finish the season as the starting quarterback. That's my prediction.
So for a while I was really excited about Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams being in the Rams lineup. But the way that I've just seen Stafford keep getting hurt, non-injury reports, it just makes me nervous. It's too much of a risk for me personally.
Yeah.
To go after those guys. And then followed up with Jonathan Taylor. I love Jonathan Taylor. He's one of my favorite players in the league. But the Colts are just the Colts. They just named Daniel Jones their starting quarterback.
Yeah. A castaway.
So I don't know. It's just hard to trust that offense. I think Daniel Jones is maybe better overall for the offense than Anthony Richardson, but just makes me nervous. And then Joe Burrow, like you said, she did have him last year. I was hoping he would drop to me so I could have the Burrow Chase hookup.
Oh, that would have been wild.
Didn't work out that way. And then David Montgomery and Kenneth Walker, I think, are pretty solid running backs.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes me nervous about Montgomery this year is, does the new offensive coordinator want to use Gibbs even more? And then that takes away from Monty. I don't know. Just question marks.
It's such a great 1-2 punch. And I remember last season, I questioned drafting Montgomery early because he was so far down in the running back rankings. And I'm like, these experts got to know something I don't know. And I kind of avoided them. And all of a sudden the season starts and he's getting into the end zone every week.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of mad at myself for letting him slide because I think he's going to produce touchdowns.
Yeah. She followed up those two running backs with Devontae Smith for Philadelphia. I think that could be a really good pick. I think he's just super talented. Again, Philly is one of those offenses that just gets in the end zone. And a lot of people expect them to have to throw a bit more than they did last year. So if that happens, she'll be really happy about that pick. Evan Ingram, I think he's kind of my underrated tight end. If I didn't go tight end early, he's a guy that I'm targeting in a lot of drafts. Denver, just like Bo Nix, likes to check down to two guys like that. So adding him to their team this year, I think could be really good. Zay Flowers, I don't know. I struggle, like I said, to trust wide receivers for Baltimore. They don't throw a ton.
No, you're right.
So he's looked good at times, but there'll be weeks where he blows up, and then there'll be weeks where you'll be really disappointed. So he might just be a hard one to choose week in and week out. She decided to go with Brandon Aubrey, top kicker. I don't like taking kickers early, but if you like Aubrey, he's obviously one of the best.
Yeah, definitely.
Detroit defense, she wanted to get the hometown team in there. And
that
then,
just makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Detroit gives up a lot of points, so they're forced to put up a lot of points. And I'm never comfortable with Detroit's defense.
The hard part is they do get a lot of interceptions and sacks, so that can off-put it. But if you give up too many points, you're starting to – it's not really –
negatives.
It's equaling out. She went with Tyrone Tracy. Could be the starting running back for the Giants in the 12th round. I think that's okay. Bo Nix as her backup quarterback I think is fine.
Yeah.
And then I like her last 3 picks. Jacoby Myers, he's been really solid for Vegas.
I like him a lot. I'm looking at him thinking, how did I let him go?
Yeah, he's just one of those solid guys. I don't think he's going to do anything crazy, but he's just a guy that he rounds out your roster really nicely.
Yeah.
Tyler Warren, love Tyler Warren as a rookie. He could be really exciting. They've talked about using him in the running game at times near the end zone. He's just kind of a utility tight end, which you don't really see. So it'll be fun to see if they do anything like that. And then Nick Chubb. We mentioned earlier Joe Mixon's hurt. He's probably going to miss week 1, so Nick Chubb could be the starter for week 1. And if he gets off to a good start, maybe he makes a little comeback.
You know me, I'm a Nick Chubb fan. I've had him different leagues, different seasons, and I'm a big fan. But again, injuries are a concern. I lost him he was gone most of the season.
Yeah, he was hurt like week 2 or something.
So again, high risk, but possibly high.
Right, as your last pick, no big deal.
Right.
And I'm sure many people are wondering, where's the Hollywood blockbusters? Don't worry. Here they are.
Well, like I said at the start of the podcast, I went with youth. I did not head into this draft married to anybody. I was going to see who fell to me and try to take the best available with whoever was available at the time. And I got a couple of veterans on my squad, but I really went with second-year players and a few rookies. So I'm happy with my draft, but I got a big old F for fantastic.
So you drafted 5th overall, draft grade of an F, and the summary says that you were playing with one hand tied behind their back. I can assure you he was not. You're projected to go 1-13, which to me would be wild. I don't think I've ever seen anybody that's trying go 1-13.
Yeah. That's not going to happen.
Your best draft pick was RJ Harvey, who you stole from me. And your worst draft pick was JJ McCarthy, which it's not a surprise, but you're hoping that he's basically a rookie, that he breaks out. And he could be really good. And again, in an 8-team league, tons of quarterbacks are on the waiver wire. So if you needed to replace him, there's plenty of room to do so.
Right.
So
my first overall pick was Genty, and I hope this doesn't burn me, but who was the Ravens running back?
Derrick Henry.
Henry was available, and Genty, and most people might have gone with Henry in that situation, but I knew Genty wasn't going to make his way back to me. He was going to be gone before it got back to me, and I like having rookies on my squad. Do I want to build a team around a rookie? I don't know, but I just think he's in a fun situation. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities. He's one of the most exciting players from this year's draft class, so I could have gone with the veteran, but I went with the rookie, and I don't regret it. So that was my number 1 pick, and then I built my team around him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you followed that up with 2 running backs, as you always do.
Well, I came in, I was going to do running back, wide receiver. But after getting my first 2 running backs, Kyron Williams was still on the board, and I love him. He was very consistent last year, and I believe the year before. He was scoring touchdowns every single week. Yeah. And you when you're drafting, you want that kind of production. And so I don't know. I'm high on him. So instead of going with a wide receiver with my 3rd pick, I went running back, then 2 wide receivers. And I am very, very happy with my running back squad. Bucky Irving, who was so impressive last year. I don't know. I'm really happy with that, with those 3 running backs, and then selecting wide receivers with my next 2 picks.
Yeah.
And Higgins, he's a veteran at this point, and he's very, very consistent, and he's going to be catching passes from Burrow. So I have no problem with Higgins. I think he was the first wide receiver I took.
Yeah. My only question that I had was, why take Higgins over who was available? AJ Brown. Just offense in general? The team?
I haven't had many Eagles on my squad in history, and isn't there there's a questionable mark next to his name? So why would my first wide receiver be someone who might not be on the field in week 1? So that's a big red flag for me. And again, Eagles are more known as a running team.
Right.
So I wanted someone who I knew could catch passes, and that's the Bengals. The Bengals are going to air it out. So if that answers your question, I just wanted a wide receiver on a passing team.
Yeah, no, I get it. I was just curious. Then you went with Jameson Williams. You wanted the hometown guy.
Yeah, and he's fun. He's such a fun player. I just saw him on the news recently. He's getting into the community, helping people in the community. So
yeah,
if I was going to get a Lion, that's who I wanted.
Yeah,
he's just fun.
And that pick felt early to me, but when I started looking at who was available at the time as wide receivers, like I can't fault you for the pick, honestly. Like at first I thought it was crazy, but then I'm like, well, there's not really that many guys right there. So
yeah,
I think it's a fine pick. Again, he's exciting to watch. You're going to watch him on Sundays with the Lions. Going to be in a lot of primetime games with the Lions. So, yeah, I think it's fun.
And the fun thing about him, too, is he might be quiet for a quarter or two, and then all of a sudden he'll score a 65-yard touchdown. That's what I love about him.
Yeah. Then you followed it up with 2 Minnesota Vikings. Decided to get some division rivals in there. TJ Hawkinson and JJ McCarthy. So give us your JJ McCarthy spiel.
Youth. I'm curious to see what he does. Who's he throwing to? Jefferson is his number 1 target. If Jefferson is a coveted wide receiver, why would you not give some credit to the guy throwing him the ball? So I think the Vikings are going to put some points up, and I just want to see what he does. And if he comes out of the gate stumbling, then a little bit later I drafted Penix, the Atlanta quarterback, another second-year guy, young guy. And if neither one of them work out, there's guys on the bench or on the waiver wire. So
your normal guy of Brock Purdy is going to be out on the waiver wire. So.
Yeah. Yeah, even though he burned me last year. He kind of fell apart at the end of the season. But I don't know. I'm curious about McCarthy. I'm excited. I just want to see what he does. So I'm rolling the dice on him. And then Addison, who we all know has been suspended the first 4 games of the season. That's just kind of a long-term stash. I've seen that work out for other team owners in the past, where they take a guy who's either starts off the season hurt or suspended, they stash him on the bench, and then when he comes into the starting lineup, he's fresh, raring to go. He's going to have something to prove. Right. He's got Jefferson on the other side of the ball. So Addison could be a shrewd pick coming in week 5, fresh and raring to go.
Yeah. In the 8th round, like we mentioned, your overall best pick, according to Yahoo, was RJ Harvey, who I love. Like I said, I would have taken him if he came back to me. He's in Denver now as a rookie. Sean Payton loves throwing to his running backs. Bo Nix likes checking down to tight ends and running backs. So RJ Harvey could take over kind of. Sean Payton, obviously kind of known for getting Alvin Kamara involved, could do similar things with RJ Harvey. He might start the season off a little bit slow, but the later in the season, he might get more and more playing time over Dobbins, and he could be really good.
My logic is, again, I wanted to stash some rookies onto my roster, but also I said earlier, I like what Denver does with their running backs. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
And then Brian Robinson, unfortunately, he's also in trade talks right
Yeah.
now. Washington looks like they just don't want to pay him. He could be traded, could be released. But if he's released, he might go to somewhere a lot quicker. So there's potential that he could fill in a role somewhere. There's a lot of places that need a running back potentially. So it's a little risky look right now, but it could work out.
Yeah, and keep in mind he's on my bench right now too.
Right.
So we'll see if he goes somewhere and gets the ball, then it'll be a shrewd pick. But if not, I'm not hurt if he stumbles out of the gate.
Yeah, and then Cam Scatabo, your last pick overall. I really like that pick too because obviously New York has a lot of question marks. They're kind of changing things this year, so he might end up being the starting running back as the season goes on as well. And honestly, one of my favorite picks that you made was Jake Ferguson. I know he's kind of been one of your guys the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But as much as we don't like the Dallas Cowboys,
I know
they are built for fantasy numbers usually. They throw the ball a lot. Dak Prescott's still pretty good overall, even though they don't win a whole lot. They throw the ball a lot. So
yeah.
Any of their pass catchers can be really good. I do like Michael Penix. I think he's going to take a step up this year.
Yeah.
I think your one question mark for me at least is like the strength of your wide receivers is a lot of questionables. T. Higgins isn't the number one guy at Cincinnati. Jamison Williams is the number 2 guy in Detroit. Addison, number 2 guy in Minnesota. So you got a lot of number 2 guys that are explosive, but are they going to hit every week?
when you go 3 running backs to start off the draft, that's a position I put myself in.
Right.
Is just trying to get some solid number 2s.
Yeah.
I did overlook when you mentioned Minnesota guys. I overlooked Hawkinson as my tight end. So
yeah,
I'm pretty happy with my tight end situation. I got Hawkinson and Ferguson, both of them score touchdowns. So we'll see. I'm not going to start both of them unless they both produce, but I think I could do the matchup thing week to week and start who's got the hot hand.
Yeah. And again, like we said, 8-team league, there's always going to be players on waiver wire. So if you ever need to make adjustments to your team, it's usually going to be available to you. So like if your wide receivers do come out slow and you need some help out there, Travis Hunter, the rookie for Jacksonville, is already out there. Jawan Jennings, who could possibly be the number 1 for San Francisco, is out there. Josh Downs, now that Daniel Jones is the starter for Indianapolis, he might be okay. If Jaden Reed gets healthy for Green Bay, he could be the number 1 guy. Khalil Shakir for Buffalo. Your guy, Chris Godwin, if he, comes on late in the season or something, because I don't think he's going to be ready at the beginning, but there's always guys out there.
I also wanted to explain my Tampa Bay defense pick. So they weren't ranked very highly on my cheat sheet, but I had seen on TV that in the preseason, they led the league with 7 interceptions in the preseason so far. Wow. And that's impressive. Yeah. I mean, I know it's preseason, but there are guys out there who really want to make this team, and they're getting interceptions, which is points. So I dug, it was a bit of a reach to grab them, but if they keep that momentum going in the regular season, that's going to be fun. And I also, John Gruden was on a podcast or something, and they were asking him to make predictions, and he said, I think Tampa Bay is going to win the Super Bowl this year. And I was like, wow. And I know, he's their former coach, but I think Tampa Bay is going to play some solid football this year.
Yeah, and I do believe they have a pretty easy schedule this year. I know they play in one of the easier divisions in the league, so yeah, I think they could definitely be a solid defense, and they tend to be almost every year.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, and then my kicker Little, he's the one who kicked the 70-yard field goal in preseason, so it's just going to be interesting to keep his eye on. That was just sort of a fun pick.
Yeah, I was targeting him. He would have been my kicker, but I was pretty sure somebody was going to take him because of him being in the news. But it is what it is. So that's our drafts. Obviously, like we said before, draft grade, I don't know if you take too much into account. Technically, I got the highest grade. Technically, Joe got the lowest grade, but an injury or two, and that changes everything.
And I think I got that low grade because of my youth. I'm taking a big gamble on young first and second year players. But
Yeah.
that's exciting for me. I like rookies. I like seeing what they're going to do.
Right. So just looking briefly at week 1, I think is fun. I'm playing Ian in the first round, or in week 1. Becky's playing Tracy. You're playing Marie, and Malik is playing Sammy. And right now, I'm projected to beat Ian. Becky is projected to beat Tracy. You're expected to lose to Marie. And Sammy and Malik are separated by 0.2 at the moment. So Sammy will be happy about that, that he's in a close matchup already, at least according to the projections.
Unfortunately, I'm going to be flying home from L.A. on the first Sunday of the season. That's a bit of a bummer, but
Dang.
Oh, well.
Well, the Thursday night game is September 4th. That's Philadelphia and Dallas. And then that Sunday, obviously. Well, there's also a Friday game, Kansas City and the Chargers. There might be another Friday game. I know there's at least one. Unfortunately, I'm going to be at Lake Orion's opening night. That's their first homecoming, so our first home game. So we're going to be filming that. So I will not be watching that game, unfortunately, until the end of it, I guess, when I get home. I can maybe catch it.
I saw a segment on TV that listed all the different ways to watch an NFL game this season, and it's going to cost you some money if you want to watch every single televised game this year.
Luckily, so. I believe we actually have most of the subscriptions this year, because we got an offer of like getting Peacock for a year at like $1 a month or something. And then we already have like Netflix and stuff for the Christmas Day games and things like that. So should be exciting. I'm going to be sitting on Sunday, the 7th? Sunday the 7th is opening weekend. I'm just going to be sitting on my couch basically all day, tuning into the Red Zone and tuning into the Lions at 4:30. They're the 4:30 game. But I'm excited.
Is Red Zone still going to be part of YouTube TV?
I believe so. I don't think that contract.
I know they
so they
some things this year.
They just merged with ESPN.
Right.
But so far that doesn't take effect until next year, I believe, at least for Red Zone. So everything stays the same at least this year. Next year they might make changes, but they said it's not going to be. Supposedly it's not going to be anything drastic. So I don't know. It's all up in the air, I guess, for next year. But
all right,
this year should be the same. Yep, I'm excited. Good luck to everybody in the league, and then we'll be back in a week or two to recap week 1, which is wild to even talk about.
Yeah.
So good luck to everyone. We'll see you in week 1.